Hey everyone, I was just letting my sound catch up. So I had a question. Somebody wanted me to do another video on boundaries. So first, before we talk about boundaries, we have to talk about what triggers are. So I went ahead and, according to the Center of Mental Health Services, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, you have to identify your triggers. So some people have anniversary date triggers due to trauma, frightening news events, too much to do, family friction, the end of a relationship, sexual harassment, being yelled at. There are a lot of different triggers. My triggers would include abandonment, oppressive people that are just not nice, rape culture, anything that's not consensual, stuff like that. So that's what my triggers are. So you would have to identify what your triggers are before you can make a boundary list. So a lot of people's triggers can be, if somebody's yelling at them or being an asshole for no reason, then you're like, well, that's great. Now I'm triggered and now I'm upset. Work can be a trigger. Unfortunately, most of us have to work. So we have to set up healthy boundaries. And every healthy lifestyle, you have a boundary to set up. So let's go over to that. According to Psych Central, and I'm going to be linking all of these as resources, personal boundaries are types of boundaries that you can have. You can have material boundaries, physical boundaries, mental boundaries, emotional boundaries, sexual boundaries, spiritual boundaries. There could be a plethora of boundaries. Like I have a boundary where if you think that rape culture is okay, me and you just aren't friends. That's just how it goes. It sucks, but that's just how that goes. But there's nothing, much that you can do. So why is setting up boundaries so hard? First, you have to put your needs before another person's. And a lot of the time when people that have anxiety, they're so used to putting other people's needs in front of their own that they can't do it. Another problem is that people don't really know what triggers them. They have to really soul search to find out what exactly is the behavior that's triggering them. I had a friend that said, my husband is a trigger. Well, what about your husband triggers you? Some people don't feel like they're worthy to have boundaries. Everybody's worthy of having boundaries. And, that's just how it is. Some people think that boundaries, jeopardize your relationship. Well, if they're going to jeopardize your relationship, you shouldn't be in that relationship. And sometimes people just have never really learned healthy boundaries. I didn't start learning healthy boundaries until I started seeing Jen Bovey. And that's something to be learned about. So what you can do when people cross your boundaries I make sure that people know what my boundaries are. On my Facebook, my boundaries are in my notes. Any kind of bullying, xenophobia, racism, misogyny, homophobia, anything like that. Those are boundaries. I have those, and if somebody crosses them in a post or whatever, they're immediately deleted. Because I've made myself very clear, and that's what that is. So there are many different ways that people can cross them, but it's how you personally, I don't know how to explain it, personally handle it. So you can handle it internally, which means that you can, a person cross a boundary and you can have that internal time, that internal time with yourself about going over, why this person did it. With somebody that has anxiety, we probably do this already, but we usually search for how it's our fault, how it happened. Well, it's not your fault. You've already stated your boundary. That person is the one that did it. Okay? So that's a good thing. So you can always reinstate your boundary, which I have had to do multiple times. So, and I always do it in a calm manner the first time. The second time I'm a little bit more aggressive. The third time I'm flat out aggressive. So, hey, don't do this. You know this is a boundary. We've already talked about this. Blah, 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 blah. So that's stating your boundaries in positive ways. You can always offer to move forward. So, you know, you can always use I feel statements and be like, hey, you know, this really bothered me. This is a boundary, you know, violation, and I really have a problem with it, and you know that I have a problem with it, and yet you keep doing it, and I don't know what to do. You can reconsider the relationship. I think that would be kind of a last-ditch effort as to, you know, how to do that. And it's not a good situation, you know, that's not a good situation to be in already anyway, because you're already going through so much, and then you have to reconsider a relationship, and that's not fair. So let's kind of recap. First, you have to decide what your triggers are. And then, so a lot of therapists say, you know, what sets you off? What really they're trying to say is, what are your triggers? So that's what you have to keep in mind while you're going through this. And then you can move forward. But that's really all I have. Boundaries have helped save my life. It's ended a lot of relationships, but it's ended relationships that were not good for me, healthy for me, or anything like that. So it was okay to let go of them. If you guys have any further questions, comments, whatever, go ahead and ask me. Or, you know, as I always say, find a competent counselor and really start to work with them. Talk to you guys soon.